everybody, it's Anthony Brogdon, and I'm coming at you with a nice lady on my show. Oh my God, you're gonna enjoy this. You enjoy all the others, and you're really gonna enjoy this one. This has a unique story to her personally, and she's in Detroit here, where I'm headquartered, but she's not from Detroit. She's from the motherland. And what she's going to express as she feels comfortable to do will blow your mind because she's going to say it so eloquently because she knows it firsthand. And so hit the subscribe button on Strong Inspirations. Come on, just hit the button. It's free. It don't ask no information. Do it right now. Hit the like button as you have seen this video and you like it. And because there is no love button, hit the notifications bell so you get notified when there is new video. And I'm releasing videos every day, all day long. Stuff that will blow your mind, as this one will. Did you see the one I did with the guy who is the son of the NBA, National Basketball Association first Black player? Watch that video. Did you see the one I did with the guy who wrote a book saying that Jackie Robinson actually was not the first Black player in Major League Baseball? There's a guy before him many years. Watch that video. Did you see the one I did with the guy that says his great-great-grandfather really kind of brought Black people into the NBA, into basketball, let's call it, not NBA, on a collegiate level. Started a basketball league in here in America many years before the NBA. Watch that video. There are so many topics that are covered on this show that we got something for everybody who has an interest in understanding the uniqueness of Black history, everybody. And wellness too. We got people that talk about eating right, mental wellness. There's one lady who she talks about trauma in Black families, and it's a unique perspective that she has. So again, hit the subscribe button. Now, come on now, let's do it. We're at 3,200. I want to be at 5,000 in the next 2 months. That'd be good. And all it does is let me know you like me. So I appreciate those who've done it so far and those who will do it soon. As you know, I'm an author. This is my book here, Black Business Book, The Rise of Black Business in America. There were enslaved Black folks who owned businesses, and I talk about them in this book and so much more. Reasonably priced. Get you a copy today. Do it now. Go to my website, businessintheblack.net. And oh man, check this out. If you so see fit, for a few extra dollars, comes in this real nice felt case. It's a book, not a case, but a box. It's a box. That's what it is. It's a box, and the book comes in here, and it's for safekeeping to treasure this collectible of Black Business Book. And I'm speaking across the country. Got some really good trips coming up, setting up the schedule for what happens in the future. Along with, I'm producing a movie. They Did It. We'll be back to shooting. Gonna go ahead and finish this. And I'm super excited, which it's based on the book, Black Business Book. And all that is on my website, businessintheblack.net. Now, you hear me use this term strong. In my world, strong stands for strength, tenacity, resilience, and a sense of oneness, nobility, and grace. And that is my introduction to the strong, good-looking sister on the channel today. Come on, lady. Let's get it on. Tell us your name.
Hello. Thank you so much for being on the show today, for me being on the show today. I am glad to be here. And my name is Patrice Kofa. I am originally from Liberia, that's in West Africa. Liberia was the only country that was colonized by America. And
Okay.
I am a mother. I am a businesswoman, and I would like to consider myself, and I do call myself a Detroiter now because I really love the energy and the people of Detroit, and I've been here for quite a bit. So
Okay.
I'm glad to be on the show today.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. That's all right. As I do with all the guests, and this is going to really be the basis of what we talk about. We talk about you personally in some respects. So you were born in Liberia. What city?
Actually, I was born in the capital city, Monrovia. And Monrovia was named for the American president, James Monroe.
Oh,
So I was
okay.
born in a capital city. I grew up in the capital city, lived there with my family before the war, the Liberian Civil War, which took place in 1990.
Okay. Now,
Started it.
now, how big is that city? Is it what would you compare it to a city in America, and what does it look
Well,
like? Let's ask that.
it's been quite a long time since I've been back there, but I would say that the entire country is about the size of Tennessee.
Oh, really? So
Yes, if that will
it's
give you some perspective. The
yeah.
entire country is about the size of the state of Tennessee. So I would guess that the city is probably about the size of it's kind of hard to say, but I would
Maybe a
say
suburb
maybe
then. Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
the city of Detroit, with a few other surrounding cities.
yeah.
If not the size of Wayne County, maybe half the size of Wayne County or something, I would say.
Okay, okay. So it's how many residents do you remember might live in that city?
Right now, I don't know, but I do know that the entire country has a population, if I'm quoting right, would be maybe the population of maybe 5 million people. So it's a
Okay,
tiny country.
yeah.
It's a small little country, but it has a very strong history, and the people are good people. What can I
Okay.
say? Hmm.
Yeah. And so you grew up in the city in a normal house that you might find in America with all the conveniences and that and in a neighborhood, that type of thing.
Yes. So I grew up in a family where my mom was primarily growing up. She was a housewife. My dad was a judge, and so I came up in an average middle class or upper middle class family, if you will. I would say middle class. Very
Yeah,
comfortable
yeah.
family, and the we had all of the amenities that you
Okay,
have here that the average American family would have. I
okay.
was surprised when I came to America years back. Some people, not everybody, but some people asked me if actually I met this young woman, and we talked about a few things, and she asked me this question. I could see that she asked me the question with so much hesitation and also um, uh, with restraint, if you will. She asked me, "Well, is it really true that you guys live in trees?" And it was funny. After she said the question, she asked the question. She said, "Well, not trees. Forgive me." She asked me if it was true that when we stepped out of our house, our porch, or the front door, there are animals like elephants and what she sees on television. And I said, no,
Right.
no, no, it's not like that. It's like
Yeah,
your our neighborhoods are just like, well, a little different, but it's the same concept, where we
I
live
got
in
you.
communities and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, so your streets had street lights and that kind of thing.
Yes, yes, we do
Okay.
have street lights. We have, schools, we have
Yeah.
churches. I actually, when all of my siblings, me and all of my siblings went to private schools.
Okay.
So I went to Catholic schools all my life.
Okay.
And yes, so we have just about all of the amenities, but I think what is often mistaken is the fact that like any other country, there is a population of people that are disenfranchised. And so the media tend to capitalize on that, especially the foreign media. They
Sure.
capitalize on that. So you see a portrayal of Africa that is not fully what it really is.
I
So you
got you.
see these hungry kids with swollen bellies and tiny legs, or you see people living in slums. Well, you have that just about everywhere in the world, but they
That's
don't
right.
show you the top 1 or 2 or 3% of people who really live a life that is of luxury, a life of opulence. That is
I
not
got you.
necessarily shown on
Yeah.
television.
Sure. And that's a good point. And that's probably what that lady's question was kind of leading to, in some respects. Did you how did you get to school every morning? Could you walk to school? You had to get driven, and what time did school start? Is it normal? What time of the year did it start? Those kind of questions.
So in Liberia, when I was a little girl, we walked to school because the school was in the neighborhood. So we
Okay,
walked to
okay,
school. And when I went to elementary school, then of course we were driven to school. So I
okay.
grew up in a house where there was someone at home who cooked for the family. And that is very common. It's very, very common in middle class families, where
Okay.
you have a middle class family has a chauffeur, a cook,
Oh, oh,
a
really?
maid, yes,
Really?
out of those
Okay.
things. So it's very, very, very common, very
Okay.
common. And this may or may not be relevant to what we are talking about. I think it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I have an acquaintance who actually is an American journalist. He did some work for BBC or CNN or one of those stations. And he told me the story about going to Africa, reporting on the Liberian civil crisis. And he spent a lot of his time in the Africa Coast, which shares a border with Liberia. There were lots of Liberians in refugee camps there. And while he was there working, he actually met and married an Ivorian woman. The thing
Mm,
is, she came from a middle class family. She came from
right.
a middle or maybe an upper middle class family. And the perception was that, well, I guess I should say some middle class people in Africa, right? When they think of America or moving to America, the mentality oftentimes is that they're going to experience a life that is better than the life that they have in Africa. So
I
she
got you.
gets here and she realizes, no, she has to go to work and she has to have these children, take care of the children, and still contribute in that way. And the lifestyle was completely different. Obviously, it didn't work out.
I
They
got you.
had,
I see.
yes. Hmm.
I see. I see.
So
I see your point. Let me ask you this: What did you? Where were white people in Liberia and in your town? Where did they live?
they live in certain areas in Monrovia. In the part of Monrovia that I live in, they lived in Mamba Point. There where you have it's like what can I say? Maybe a city or neighborhood. It's a
Yeah.
borough. I would say a
Yeah. Okay.
borough, and
Okay.
it is it's where you have the American embassy, and then you also
Okay.
they're pretty much scattered all over the place because in some
Okay.
suburban cities as well, like Pinsville or Congo Town and
Okay.
the Old Road. Those are all little suburban cities, and they're where you find them. And so you have a lot of, wealthy people that live in those areas as well. My family lived on the Old Road as
Did
well when
did
I
did,
was
did
there.
you did you go to school with white people, or they had a separate
Yes,
school?
yes, yes, absolutely, I did.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I I grew up practically with them, from
Okay.
elementary school,
Okay.
because yeah, we sat in classrooms together, we played on the playground together, and those
Okay.
sort of things. Yes, yes, yes.
Let me ask you, in terms of this dynamic, when black people dominate as they do in that country, in African countries, are the white people, uh do they have still a sense of entitlement and control in some respects? Do the
Still,
kids feel that way, like they're better than you all, or it's another dynamic?
so today, when I talk to you about my experiences, or I talk to you about my country, and I would be talking to you from my perspective, my
Sure,
personal
sure,
experience, and
sure,
perhaps of those who I know and who have had the same experience as I did.
sure.
So, um, yes, I would say yes. It is a funny and interesting dynamic. So you have the Caucasian people, then you also have the Lebanese, the Arabs, right?
Okay.
So I don't know if if the Arabs are considered white or not,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
let's just put them in the same category for now, just
Sure, sure,
for
sure.
conversation's sake, for the
Yes.
benefit of this conversation. And there's this sense of entitlement that you can't fathom at all. And it is actually, in my opinion, I think it is encouraged, or it is encouraged by the or supported, if you will, by the government. They have this oh God, I'm talking about Liberia, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I can also say this about Guinea, where I grew up. In one way or one in a way, it was my experience that the the whites and the Arabs had more privileges than we did. So
Wow.
if you
What?
and I were competing for a contract and you were an Arab or a white person, you will most likely get the contract before I did.
Wow. Well,
Yes.
okay, let's go back to this. Now, is the president and the government people black in Liberia?
That's a very good question. And thanks for asking that question. Yes, yes. Everyone at the time of my being in Liberia and in Africa, in Liberia, out of the people in government were Black people. And also in Guinea, when I was there, I also experienced the same thing, and they were all Black people. And to my knowledge, today they're still all Black people. But that was the thing. That was the thing. And there was a saying amongst the business people in Guinea that that's the Republic of Guinea. The capital city is Conakry. They share a border with Liberia. My family lived there as well during the Liberian civil crisis. Now, there was a common saying, a joke, in amongst the business people that says that if you want to accomplish your business goals, get a white friend to pretend that you actually work for him.
Oh,
So he
I
walks
see.
into the office and everybody looks up. It's a mentality thing. It
Really,
is
all over
scary
the
and
world.
sickening at the same time.
Was
So now I should be clear though,
yes.
that kind of treatment, right? It does not, it is not, there are some people who are exempt, Black people that are exempt from that treatment, of
I got
course.
you. Let me
Yes.
ask you this. Was your father elected as judge, or how did he become the judge?
He was appointed.
Okay.
Yeah, at the time when I was growing up, before today, maybe now people are elected. I don't think so. But all of the judges were appointed. And I think
Was
they
he a,
still are appointed.
is he a lawyer?
Yes, yes.
So
He
he
was.
went,
He was a lawyer. He's
yeah,
deceased
yeah.
now.
So he went to law school.
Mhm.
As a result, do you know the any Black history stories where you taught Black history as a kid from about the Black history in your country?
Yes, the story that, my goodness, this is good. This is some real good questions. Um, the stories that I remember, one in particular, is how the African Americans repatriated to Liberia. So the story I was told in school, and it was written in a textbook about this Liberian king. It's been such a long time. I can't even recall his name, but his name was King Peter something, and he was of the Bassa tribe. That's the same tribe as my mother, and they are the original people from the city of Monrovia, the whole Monserrato territory. That's their hometown, that's their country, their nation. And when the settlers went back to the coast of Liberia, they were confronted with the natives there, the Bassa tribe, particularly. And they went into war, months and months and months, and even years of war. Of course, the natives were defeated, but they put up a good fight, as the story goes. And at one point, they solicited the help of a Mandingo king. His name was Salboso,
Okay.
if I'm saying that right, if I remember
Okay.
correctly. And they have streets that are named for him in Liberia as well. And these were warriors. The Mandingos, as we know, are warriors, and you will find them all along the coast of West Africa countries, along West Africa. It's because they went from one nation to the next, conquering nations and bringing them under their folds.
Okay.
And so they solicited the help of a Mandingo king, a warrior king. He brought his troops, and this king particularly was from the Guinea, what today is known as the Guinea, the country of Guinea.
Okay.
And he rallied his men to Liberia, and they fought, against the colonizers, and that lasted for years. And finally, they came to an agreement to allow the settlers to occupy certain territories. And so then they became, of course, they became Liberians, and that the settlers are known up to today's date as the Congo people. You
Oh,
know,
really? Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Now,
So
do you all know slavery?
no, not in the way that you know it. I think and it's funny because we don't see it that way as slavery, but it is actually slavery, if you ask me. So that's why I say we don't know slavery in the way that you know it. Um, especially in West Africa. Now in South Africa and other parts of Africa, particularly South Africa, they experience, maybe they may not call it slavery, but if you really look at it, it's some form of slavery, if you
Okay.
will,
Okay.
right? So when I say that we don't see it in the way that you see it, or we don't experience it in the way that you experience it. This is what I mean.
Okay.
Um, in in my country, it has to be some form of slavery, self-slavery, if you will, to look at your brother, the same, from the same background, the same country as you, look at opportunities, viable opportunities that would change his life, his family, even the nation's, life,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
pass it on to someone
I see what you're saying.
else. You have
Yes.
to be tied, tethered to some kind of mental slavery to do that. So
Was
yes,
Liberia?
we do experience slavery in that form.
You mentioned earlier, Liberia was colonized by America. What's that
Yes.
story?
So the history goes that Liberia, just like England went over to India and took over the country and set their white leaders in place, viceroys and all of those people in place to rule them. And they did that all in other parts of the world. Was the
Yes.
same thing that America did. They showed up on the coast, the coast of Liberia and just took over the country. Well, because they had, and their story was that, they took over the country with guns.
Really?
Yes, took over the country, brought people, they brought doctors and astrologers, teachers, um, storytellers from Liberia, put them on a boat, a ship, and then brought them to America, and then they became slaves. So yeah,
Wow.
that's what happened.
Oh,
And then
man.
the story goes that when this is the story they told us, and it's just it's just interesting that it sounds so similar to the story that I heard of the Native Americans.
Yeah.
In my textbooks, when I was just a girl in grade school, I was told that the Americans, the former slaves, came back to Liberia. They were sold pieces of land as settlements by the Liberian king, King Peter, for fish, smoked fish and booze, and I've heard,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken, I heard the same story about the Native Americans,
Okay.
and it's so interesting that, you know, that
It, it,
the
it,
stories I've heard, they're the same, they're exact same.
so, oh man. Now, as we go up the timeline, um, did Liberia ever have a civil rights movement? Anything, like we did in America, to have for the black people to revolt against whatever injustices they were facing?
Yes, we did. Actually, unlike places like India where they had, a lot of white faces that were calling the shots, and they had these, you know, Indian people who were subordinates to them. Liberia actually have always, you always had the white guy in the background anyway, but it was more so of Liberians who were supposedly in charge. But interestingly enough, there were a small elite group of people that held power since the establishment of the country. These people were from the members of the ex-slave tribe, the Congo tribe. And so, and all of the resources were distributed among that small group of people. The natives just, it's so interesting because the way, the stories that my parents, my mom, my dad, and the people before them told us was that before 1980, the way they treated, the way the natives, the indigenous people were treated was similar to the stories that are told by the African Americans here. So one of the examples that my dad told me was that you may go to a Congo person's house, one of the ex-slaves, descendants of the ex-slaves house, and they will tell you that you cannot come through the front door. You have to go to the back door. You cannot come into the house. You can't drink from the cups. You have to drink from, you can only eat from certain plates, certain
Really?
cups. Oh, yes, it was. Look, they tell you these stories, and you just can't believe that these things actually happened.
And what you just said is this is the 1980s, so this is
The
years after we had
nine,
our issues.
well, 1980 was when Samuel Doe, the first modern day president of Liberia that I'm aware of, came to power by coup, a coup d'etat, Samuel
Oh,
Doe. And actually, his wife just passed away. His widow just passed away, I think, earlier this year, a few months back. And he was the first modern day indigenous leader of the country, and via a coup d'etat. And when he came to power, that was when we start. This could be argued by other Liberians, but this is my perspective. My
yeah.
political perspective on this subject. Before, if you were to talk to Liberians or take take the statistics, you would find that before 1980, there were few indigenous people who owned, or maybe they owned the land, but they couldn't build on it simply because they did not have the means. Let's keep in mind that the resources was recycled amongst a small group of people. And so you may own a vast piece of land, but you were still poor. So he comes to power, and you see all of these, lands being developed, because now the indigenous people got to play.
I
They
see.
were allowed to come on the field, and other people may dispute this for the mere fact that that Samuel Doe came to power through a violent means, and they don't like him, or they don't like what he stood for. They'll call him an oppressor. In some ways, he may have been, but I will tell you that I truly believe that he was one of the presidents that actually raised our country from, our people rather, from the bottom, for them to see themselves in a completely different way. A
Okay, let's go. Let me
completely
ask you
different
this
way.
question. Let me ask you this. So, is that what led you? Because you said, as we talked offline, that you fled because of a political crisis. Is that the crisis that you fled to America, or what have you, or was it some?
Yes,
Or was it another one?
yes, it was another one. The coup took place in 1980. I was, I was in Liberia at the time, but I didn't know what was going on because I was a child, a kid at
Okay.
the time. Um, the war started in 1990, and I was a young teenager at the time when it took place. And that war lasted for arguably about 14 years,
Now,
you know?
who was
And
fighting in that war? Explain that war to us.
it was a civil war, a tribal war between primarily two or three tribes. So you had the Kron tribe, which is a tribe that the President Samuel Doe belonged to. That was the ruling tribe, if you will, at the time. And then you had the Gio and Mana, and they come from the same territory. And they're like cousins. And interestingly enough, these tribes are all cousins, if you if you will, right?
Okay.
They live in the same territory. It's like
Okay.
Detroit and Southfield, and then you have Oak Park, the
Right.
way they're
I
all
got you.
joined, right? So they
I got you.
intermarried with each other. They speak each other's language. Some of them speak each other's language and stuff. So they're cousins, and they have had a history of war between them anyway, way from centuries and centuries back. And so anyway, the war started in 1990, and I was there during the war. And it was like you saw on television some time back, where you turn on your television and you see what's going on in Syria or one of those European countries where people are getting shot, they're lining people up and they're shooting them and those sort of things. I was there. When I remember when my family moved to sought refuge in Guinea, and we would talk to our Guinean neighbors, and they would ask us about the war. They couldn't fathom that these things that they saw on TV, because they will watch these things on the news, that it was happening all over the country to everyone, and they're looking at you, and you actually saw that firsthand and experienced it.
Now, when you said that you were there then, uh, like what kind of things did happen to you?
Oh, so when the war started in 1990, the school system shut down, and it told us that it was closing temporarily for a few weeks. Then it went on 2 months. Then it went on to say indefinitely. We'll let you guys know, right? And we started to see that things were not, there was something drastic, very big happening behind the scene, because there were military people everywhere. It became very common, to see military people, guns. You'll find troops in the middle of the street, marching and chanting and all of those things. And then the next thing that started happening were that there were no food. The electricity became scarce, even more scarce, and then water. There were water problem, and then even more so, there were no food. There were no food. All of the food just like you saw in COVID,
Right, right,
no
right. I
toilet
got you.
paper, okay, there was nothing, no food at all.
Okay.
And it went on where, there were curfews. We had to be in at a certain time. So everybody thought it was going to happen for a few weeks, maybe a couple of months, and then we were all going to go back to our lives, because our country had experienced coup d'etat for a few times. So it wasn't something new, but it didn't stop there. It got worse. You would get up in the morning and there would be dead people laying in the street.
Well,
And
let me stop you there. How did one group know who to kill in the other group? Because they look
oh,
differently. How did they know who to shoot at if they all Africans?
what a great question to ask. Um, it's a very beautiful question, because with us Africans, especially particularly Liberians, I'll speak from a Liberian perspective and maybe a Guinean perspective as well. There's a facial features you can pick up. Certain tribes look a certain way, or maybe they have a certain body type. Like, for
Okay.
instance, the Loma tribe, they're known for very big and wide hips. They're very, gifted in that area. So you could be walking down the street and someone is maybe about, 100 feet away from you, the back is turned to you, and you can just pretty much guess, oh, that's a Loma person,
But
just
that's
from those.
just women. It's not men too.
Well, not necessarily men, but compared to the body may not be as big and round,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
as a woman, but in comparison to other guys, you,
Oh, really?
the
Okay,
face of the features, in the
okay,
face, the eyes, the nose, and the lips,
okay,
you can tell, and then also the names as well.
okay, okay.
Yes.
So, so, so this is going on, and so are you seeing dead bodies yourself?
Yes. So we the curfew um um was oftentimes from morning, that's it, from 8 o'clock in the morning to like 6 o'clock. So whatever you had to do to go find food, or that was what people were preoccupied with, finding food. There's no food. There's no water. So we were drinking well water, and we were eating hibiscus leaves. We were eating anything you could possibly eat, find to eat. That's how bad it was. And and there were checkpoints and roadblocks in the streets, all over the streets. There were soldiers there. They would check you, pat you down, look through your stuff before they let you go. And it got to a point where in the area that my family was at the time, the government soldiers were the one monitoring the area. And as the months progressed, the rebel soldiers, Charles Taylor, the warlord, he's now in prison in the Heck. His men came to our neighborhood and told us and our neighbors that we had to evacuate the area. We had to leave the area. So we went into his, behind his territory line. And as we're leaving, now there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of us. And it was always safe to travel in that number, because at least you're not singled out. Some people are going to get singled out anyway, but you're not particularly singled out um, and 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 killed or harassed or what have you. And I'll tell you this one story. So on this day that we were repatriating, um, there
Let me
were
stop you
hundreds
there. When you say we, you're talking about you and who else?
the neighbors, the
I mean,
entire
but I'm
neighborhood.
talking about in your family. Your dad, was your dad immune to it? Did they try to get to your dad?
Well, actually, my dad did not come with us. We left him. We left a few other men that lived in the neighborhood. They all decided they were going to stay behind. My father, I believe, looking back on it now, he was scared. Why? Because, he was kind of known, and these guys were killing anyone that worked with the government. They don't care whether you were in the army, you were one of the people that were making the top people that were making decisions to, go to war with them. They did not care if you were employed just to make, and they were just criminals. Let's just put it that way. They were a bunch of the rebels were made out of neighborhood thugs that were looking for a way to rob and steal and get even with people. And most of the people, it was supposed to be a tribal war, but most of the people that they were equally killing, along with other, the other tribes, were government workers, particularly the police officers and the soldiers. The police officers that were killing them, and they were only doing that stuff because they remember these guys, um, arresting them and putting them in jail.
I got you.
So
I got
yes,
you.
so with every territory that the rebels were able to conquer, they would recruit people. and mostly thugs, and they would even take, husbands and fathers that didn't know anything about violence, and then just tell them, well, listen, you can either come with us or you can get killed here.
Wow.
And this happened to one of the guys that were traveling with us, a neighbor, friend, or somebody that she knew, actually worker. He worked for her, and he, we got to a checkpoint where there were, look, hundreds of people in line. And as you're standing in line, I remember, I'm just talking about it, I'm thinking, it's, I'm experiencing it in my body already. Early that morning, very early that morning, we're standing there in line waiting to get to the other side. That, for one, the stench of decaying bodies in the woods nearby, you can smell it, and you can actually see the dogs eating the rotten, the body that was rotting. You can actually see them, and those were the kind of things. Oh God. So we're standing in line. These rebels are walking all over the place with guns. They're yelling insults at people randomly. They're threatening of what they're going to do. The checkpoint is in somebody's house. The occupant, the owners of the house, don't live there anymore, but the rebels live there. You can see the garage that have been turned into a makeshift prison. And you can see, and the garage had a gate, but the gate was built like, like those bars that you have at the windows, with the rods. That's how the garage gate was. So you can see the people in there, but then it has the gate, right? And these guys are in there, and they are, half dressed. They'll take your, they had them in there, so they're standing there, and they're terrified. And when I got to this, this neighbor's worker, they looked at him, pulled him out of the line, and they started to intimidate him. He got scared. He freaked out. At the time, I believe he may have been, looking back now, maybe he was like maybe 21, 23, something like that. He was scared. And they're asking him all of these questions. How did you get this money? He had, I think, about a few $100s or something. And he was so nervous as he's trying to answer the question. They start to beat him with the butt of the gun. And the neighbor says to him in Basa, her language, she says something to him. And what she said to him was, "Oh, don't let them take my money from you." What she was, it wasn't her money. Later on, we got to find out, because she told us she was just trying to save him. He was hesitating. He was trying to find a story to tell them. And she was trying to give him a story like, oh no, it is her money. And I think at the time she must have been in her 40s or 50s. I don't know. She was an older woman. And and they called her out of the line. They go, "Well, how do you know?" She said, "Oh no, he's like my son. He worked for me." And they just started whacking her, beating her. And her daughter was with her. At the time, I think she was about 6 years old. She had a 6-year-old daughter. And they just started beating her. They tied, because they did not have handcuffs. They would tie you up in a way that would, most people who were fortunate to be, to not get killed, most of them had problem with the arms, and some of them ended up being paralyzed, but later on, they after a few hours of keeping her in detention, they let her go. After the war, she told us that she ran into him. They they recruited him to go on the front. They gave him the option of either going to fight or getting killed. And he chose to
Now you
live.
told me that you were in situations where you saw bullets going by. You could have been killed by bullets, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So imagine, right, when we were being moved from our neighborhood, we actually had to walk. Imagine walking from Detroit on foot to, say, Pennsylvania on foot. And all of that distance you have to cover within just a matter of a couple of days. And sometimes the road, you went faster than you wanted to or your body could permit, simply because you were terrified. You were terrified. There were certain areas, everywhere was dangerous to begin with. So we are in a group. This actually happened to me. We are in a group, hundreds of strangers walking together. During the trip, you get to be family. You get to, stand by each other because there were scary times. And I am walking with these people, and I stopped for a moment to dig into my bag. And as soon as I did this, looking into my bag, a stray bullet flew over my head. There was a woman who was traveling with us. She had a baby, and it is customary for Africans to carry the babies on their back. So you would put the baby on your back and then take a cloth and then tie it up, right?
Right.
So she, like most mothers, carried her baby that way. We're walking down the street, and it's dark. It's getting dark because there were even curfews. And even if there weren't, you didn't want to be out during that time. And they started shooting, and everybody's hiding and taking cover. When the shooting was over, we got back on the road and started going. The baby is quiet because usually when the shooting is happening, the kids are scared and everybody's crying. The baby is quiet. She doesn't think anything of it. Come to find out, the baby was dead. They shot at her, and the baby took a bullet. There was a dead baby on her back.
Well, okay, we're gonna move up the timeline just for the time's sake. So you make it to where?
So during that time, you were just trying to get to the border to get out of the country. That was the goal, to get out of the country, because everywhere was hot. Everywhere there was shortage of food. There were dead people in the street, everywhere. And so our quest was to reach a border town, and
Yeah. Did you make and you made it?
well, I got separated from my folks and traveled with this group, and we got to a bordering town. And I remember that we got there late. Mind you, people don't like to be out after certain hours. It was risky. It was scary to be out during that time. Bunch of strangers, traveling with a bunch of strangers. And we get to the border, and these people decided that we would not cross the border. The Guinean soldiers decided we were not going to cross the borders because soldiers, rebels from Liberia, the Liberian side of the border, they will come across, and then they'll start shooting. There was a refugee camp right there on the border, and they'll start shooting at people and stuff like that. And so we were stuck on the ground, in bushes for hours, and it was dark, and you can actually see the fire or the light from the bullets flying all over the place. So we were not able to cross the border. In short, I find my way back to the capital city, reconnect with my family. At this time, we have the ECMO.
Hold on. I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
You leave this border.
They weren't letting, it was risky. You get killed. You get
And
killed.
so you walk back another 100 miles.
Hundreds of miles, hundreds of miles. And as you're going back, these guys are retreating. They're retreating and they're burning every town down. They're killing people. They're going into a town and they just start shooting people. They were like, we got to a place where there was a town and there was a dead town, empty town. It was scary. It was scary because you go to a place like that and you notice there used to be people there before. There was sign of life from before, but it's eerily empty and quiet. And so you will stay in the bushes and watch, and actually not towns, they're villages. Let me not say towns. They were little tiny villages. So you would stay in the bushes and watch to see, if there were people there. And in fact, you don't, if you had to spend a night, you don't go, you would be taking a big risk by going to sleep in one of those abandoned houses. And so people would just sleep in the woods. You take your cloth, your sheet or whatever, and just lay there. And then the next day you start your journey, And what I didn't mention also, as we are traveling, food is so scarce and you will eat anything. And the things that we were eating were, I don't know the name for it. There's a name for it, but there were bugs that live in the tree. We looked forward to that. Oh my
Okay, let
God.
me ask you this.
They're like maggots in the tree.
How many people are traveling with you at this point?
Maybe about anywhere from say 10 to 20 people. So what happens is that you would, for me, my mentality and at the time was, if I can just get with a group of people, at least if I'm stopped, somebody in that group would speak out for me because it helped.
And how old are you?
I'm somewhere, so during the heat of the war, I'm talking about an age span of 13, 15, in that ballpark. So the first few years of the war were the hottest that I remember, from 1990 to 93, 94. It was when you had the war taking place all over the country. And then after that time, you will have the war breaking out in certain pockets of the country.
Let's get back to the story. So now you make it back home?
Mm-hmm.
Is your dad there?
No. And interestingly enough, my mom is in one part of the city. My goal was to find my mother. I couldn't tell you why, because there were times that I was supposed to die. I thought I was going to die. I lost some brothers in the war. And I remember, oh God, I'm thinking about that time.
Yeah, sure.
I get back, my father, I was going to tell you about my dad when we left him back at home. He was, I believe he was scared. He stayed behind with a few of his friends from the neighborhood, and it was just a handful of them. I remember as we're leaving, he said, no, they're this person, that person that's going to stay. There were maybe 3 or 5 of them that was going to stay behind. And when we regrouped with him, he told us a story that after we left, I think it was a couple of days later, the rebels came to our neighborhood and took them out. And 2 of those guys were killed there. They sat them there and they shot them. So he and the other one or the other person or people that were not killed, they took them and put them in a group with a few other men. And then the next day they started interrogating them. He were found to have worked with the government, and they had him tied up. Remember I told you they would tie you up in such a way that there's no circulation. They had him tied up. They had a way of, you were a marked man when they had you take all your clothes off. You were dead. You're just as good as dead. They will take all your clothes off of you, and there's no turning back at that point. So he said he's sitting there, and all he had on was his underwear. And he's sitting in a row with a group of people. In fact, I had him in a makeshift prison, like the one from that checkpoint I was telling you about, in a house, somebody's house. They're in a room, right? And they will come at night, and they'll take these guys, and they'll take them out, and they'll shoot them. If you look out the window, you will see them being shot. That's a guy that maybe, that he slept next to, right? And so this day, they bring him out, is the day he's going to get executed along with other people. Their hands are tied behind the back. They're sitting on the floor, on the ground rather, outside. And there are people, there are always group of people, hundreds of people going by. And he's sitting there. They take a few of them from that line, take them away from the group, maybe in a wood nearby, and to shoot them, right? He's sitting there. He just knows he's going to die. Today is going to be the end of it. He sees, then he hears his name called. But the way his name is called, he's looking around. There's this excitement, as the person's calling his name. He's looking around to see who is calling him. He sees this person. He does not recognize the person. The man has a gun. He looks like the rest of the other guys that are shooting people. And he goes, "Oh, don't you remember me?" He goes, "No." And this man is giving order to the other rebels around to untie my dad. So they break the rope. And he said, "Well, stand up." And he starts to tell the people around, the rebels, that my dad was his boss. That was before my dad became a judge. He worked for a government agency, and he was my dad's chauffeur. My dad will give him, groceries and helping out, with money, cash, or whatever. And he had a lot of good things to say about my father. And he apologized for the treatment, gave my father his clothes back, and told him he could leave. He said that's how he,
wow. Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So how does this end? What happens? You get back to the house.
Yes.
You're there by yourself, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I get back to town. I have to say that was the my mom lived. We lived in Looking Town. That's one of the places that we lived. We had a house in Looking Town. My mom lived there in Looking Town. And I get back there. I was only, say, maybe a block or two away from my house, but that was the longest block I ever had to walk. It became real to me that, what if I went back home and nobody was there? My mom, especially my mom, was not alive. She was not there. That was the first time ever that I thought of her not being alive. And I remember being very scared to go home. I sat under a tree, wondering when, what to do, whether to go home or to turn around and go back to our house on the old road. But on the old road, we were just too far. It's like walking from downtown Detroit all the way to, say, I don't know, Northville or something like that. I'm not, yeah. Okay, so anyway, yeah, as I'm sitting there, one of my brother's friends, from the neighborhood spots me. He go, "Oh my God, oh my God, it's so good to see you. He could tell from the way I was dressed that I came from, the rebel territory. I was dirty. I was dusty. I was, malnutrition. You could see it all over me, written all over me. And he says, "Oh, I just saw your brother." I had hope, like my brother. "I think your mom is at home." I said, "I just saw your brother earlier today." And so that was clue that it was good. It was okay to go home. So I go home. I get to my house, and everybody, I could hear the voices, familiar voices, sitting on the back porch. And my brothers, because mind you, I come from a household of lawyers, and they'll sit around, debate, you know, stupid things, basketball, food, or whatever that was happening in the news or in the neighborhood. They'll make these arguments like attorneys or what have you, practice mock arguments. And they're doing the same thing, right? And I go, oh my God, it's just like, I left it before. They all seem to be alive. And I walked in, and my mom was there. I remember her coming to see me as I, came into the house. She didn't yell, she didn't scream. She looked at me, she walked up to me, had a good look at me, and then just hugged me so tight. She didn't say anything. And then she turned to one of my siblings and said, "Go and get her some water, prepare her a bath." And she goes, "You go ahead and take a bath, and I'll put some clothes out for you." There were people, other families living in our house, just like we did in other people's homes, where as you travel along, if you saw a house, you went in and then just slept. So she told me in the story that it had to leave, just like, when it came back, there were people living in the house, in our rooms and stuff. There were people living in my room. So I had to sleep, in my mother's room. So that was the story. But then it didn't end there. When my dad returned, but he went to the house on the old road, in the suburb, different suburb of the city, and they didn't know. He didn't know whether I was alive or not. He just knew that, I didn't come home. But later on, he came to find me. That came to know that I was with my mom in another part of town. I think it was only like almost a year later, excuse me, that I went to Guinea as a refugee, because the war did not stop. It didn't stop. It went on and on and on. There were people still killing one another. There were still bombs going off, and people were getting repatriated. I remember this one day, there were bombs going off in the neighborhood. And everybody packing their stuff and moving out. My mom decided, well, we should go on the old road, or we should go to another. We had another property besides the old road property. We were going to go to that. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, I've been in that area before. And that's how come I got stuck behind the rebel lines. And it's not good. They shoot people and they kill people for no reason. I am going to get on a ship and go somewhere. And as my siblings, my mom, they're all packing up their stuff and getting ready. I told my mom we were supposed to move, get out of there the next day. The day before, I went for a stroll, just to see what was happening, because people were moving. And I went to the port of, the shipping port of our country, where goods come into the country. There were all of these people gathered at the gate trying to get into the port, and the soldiers were not letting them in. The soldiers at this point were the peacekeepers, from the the African nations, right? The Ekmog. And they weren't letting it in. There was a ship they were trying to get on. As I'm standing there, there's this kid that's younger than me. At the time, I think he was 11 years old, 11 or 12, between the ages of 10 and 12 years old. And he comes up to me and he says, "Oh, are you getting on the ship? Are you going?" I said, "There's a ship." He says, "Yes, I'm going to get on that ship." I'm looking at it. I said, "Where are your mom and dad?" He says, "Oh, I don't have, my mom and dad are not here, but I'm getting on that ship. You should come." I go, "Where is it going?" He said, I don't know. I think it's going to Guinea or something. I said, "But I don't have any money." He said, "Well, you don't have to have any money. I'm going to steal my way onto the ship. You should come with me."
Wow.
Long story short, I go back home. I get a backpack. I don't tell my family what I'm going to do. Typical teenager. I go back to the port and I steal my way onto this ship and I go to Guinea. And then, but anyway, my family, later on came to Guinea as well as refugees. But yes, that's how I ended up in Guinea, and my family followed. Yeah. And from
Just a couple
there,
more for the sake of time. How did you connect back with the family? I mean, it wasn't no cell phones. How do you know where they are? How do they know where you are?
yeah, that's a good question because from what they told me was that they didn't notice for the few hours that I was gone. They didn't notice that I was gone. Later that evening, around dinner time, they wonder where I was. And they go, "Well, maybe she's at a neighbor's house. She'll come back later. Her food is going to be here." The next day, they woke up and the food was still there. They got concerned, started searching the neighborhood for me, but then they had to leave. So they waited another day or two before leaving because they had to leave. There were people there, they were shooting and all that kind of, so they had to leave. So they went to one of our homes, in one of the other suburbs, and and they didn't know where I was. And this went on, I think it was 4 months later that they got a letter from me. Well, actually, they said, I think a month later, there was a guy that said, "Oh, I think I saw your sister just through conversation. I think I saw your daughter." He told my brother, "I think I saw your sister on that ship. I think she's in Guinea." And he came back and told my mom, but they never believed it. They never believed it. Like, she has no money. She never, no, no, no. And it was someone else. And then I think it was 4 months later, 4 or 5 months later, they got a letter from me telling them that I was indeed in Guinea. And then, of course, they met me. Yeah, that's how they found out. Yeah. But getting on that ship was quite an interesting ordeal because we finally got into the port and we didn't have any tickets to get on board, this kid and I. We were trying to steal our way through, and they were checking those people that had the tickets and stuff were getting on the ship. And it was at the very end, as the ship is about to leave. They had this bridge that you walk on to get onto the ship. It was made of wood, and they have ropes. I don't know the name of it. It's we call it a monkey bridge, and it had made of ropes and wood. I got on the bridge. This kid is already up. He's there on the deck. He's screaming. There's noise everywhere. There's chaos. There's police. And it's curfew time. I couldn't go back home. So I'm stuck in limbo. My family doesn't know I'm out here. It's curfew. I cannot go home. It's like walking from the downtown Detroit all the way to Southfield. Of course, I'm going to get stopped. Anything could happen to me, right? And so I had to get on the ship. I'm midway on the bridge, and they're trying to stop me from getting on the ship. The guy untied the bridge, so the thing is swinging, and there's a rope, so it swings, and I grab this rope that's tied to the deck. And everybody's on the deck. They're looking down and they're screaming. I look behind. There are people on the on the dock.
Port. Yeah,
Yes, they're
right.
on the dock. The army, the soldier, everyone, all of them on the dock, and they're just screaming. I can't swim. I don't know how to swim. I'm very skinny, very tiny person, and the thing is going like this. And I'm climbing the rope, going up. I go almost to the top, and just before, and mind you, I'm scared, I'm screaming, and everybody's taking a breath with me as I go up. I go all the way up. Then one bad move, I'm sliding down, woo, and everybody's screaming. Screaming with me. But fortunately, I climb back up and I get on deck. As soon as my feet land on the deck, the guys that work on the ship, I don't know whether it was securities or whatever, I do know they worked for the ship. They knew I had no tickets to be on that ship. They decided they started chasing us. Me and the kid I was traveling with started chasing us because we're not supposed to be there. They decided they were going to detain us until we got to Guinea, and they were going to turn us over to the authorities. And you should have seen us. We were running all over that ship. Running all over that ship. Yeah. So that's how I came to Guinea. It's a very interesting story, even when we got in Guinea. And, the things that took place, and then, coming to America and my experience there too, very similar to how I got to Guinea, very somewhat similar. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
You have nightmares?
No, not at all. I think after I came to America and I got settled, every now and then I will have a little flashback, or I don't know if you call it nightmares maybe, but I'll have a little flashback here and there, but that was that. But for the most part, I just saw it like it was just life. It happened. Maybe in some strange way it was supposed to happen like that way, because if it wasn't supposed to happen that way, then it never would have happened. And sometimes just thinking like that kind of, it kind of make you to see that life, it didn't happen to you. It just happened. It was just something that happened in life, not particularly to you. If that makes sense.
Have you ever been back to Liberia?
No. When my family comes to visit, they come to visit, so that suffice my needs to go back there. Yeah.
Your dad's still alive?
No, my parents are deceased now.
They're deceased now.
Yes. But it was quite an experience. At one point I even got detained in our travels. I got detained because my mom is Bassa. My father comes from the Kru tribe. And the way it is in Africa, you are your father's tribe. So I'm Kru, right? So I have this name, Kru name. And I tell these people, no, I am Kru, but I grew up in a Bassa household. My father spoke Bassa. My mother was Bassa. My aunties, uncles, all of them were Bassa. The neighbors were Bassa. So everybody spoke Bassa. My dad never really, he spoke Kru with his siblings and some of his friends. So they were adamant that there was something I was lying about. And how come I was Kru but couldn't speak Kru?
And so this was where? When did this happen?
That was during the time when I was separated from my family, and I'm traveling along in that group, group of strangers.
You went back to Liberia.
Before I went back home, yes. And so I got detained and for a few hours, and then I was let go. Yeah. So actually, less than a few hours.
God is good.
All the time. All the time. All the time. Yeah. So yeah,
Story.
there were a lot of people that lost their lives. My brother passed away, and I was, during that time when we were traveling, when I was traveling with people, behind the rebel lines, I knew he passed away because I went to bed that night. I had this dream about him, and I knew that he was deceased. I just knew it. I couldn't tell you why or how. I knew. And when I went back home and reconnected with my mom, she did not know this. And I remember that she and some other women in the neighborhood would go maybe once a week or so to go looking for their children. They will go look, she will go looking for my brother. They will go looking for their, kids.
Yeah.
But I knew I didn't want to tell her what I thought or what the dream I had or whatever. It was about a year later, somebody who was actually there, who knew him, said, well, unfortunately, he got killed. He got shot. Yeah. And one of those people in my family that lost their relatives was my aunt Daisy. Her son-in-law actually got buried alive, and his wife, my cousin, she passed away, and her daughter, they had about two children, and one of the kids came to live with us. Yeah, we adopted as our sister, a little sister.
Hmm.
It was not a good time. I mean, it was just a horrible experience. A horrible experience. Yeah. But anyway, I also
Okay.
um, wanted to mention that moving to America was a good thing for me because it gave me a lot of opportunities. And although it was not a walk through the park as I thought it was going to be, but somehow coming to America has helped me to become the woman that I am today, the entrepreneur that I am today. And today I am a business. I've owned several businesses, and one of the businesses that I am fortunate to be the owner of is the Bitorium.com. It is a tech platform that homeowners that connect homeowners and contractors in a competitive bidding process. And if you were looking for a contractor or a handyman to do some work around your house, and you're looking for someone credible, someone that you can trust, that's not going to take your money and run away, you will go onto Bitorium. It is BID T like Tommy, ORIUM. And you'll go on there and you will post your bathroom renovation job, and contractors go on to this platform and they will bid on your job. So it's an open bidding process, very transparent, and before the contractors can go out to do your work, there is an option for you to deposit the payment for the job in escrow. So that way you are secure. Your money doesn't get taken um, by a dishonest contractor, and also um, they they don't get scammed,
Sure.
out
Sure.
of
Sure.
money as
Sure.
well.
Have you thought of writing a book about your life?
I get that question all the time, all the
Sure.
time, all the
Sure.
time.
Sure.
And just keep in mind the story that I told you, because we have only an hour. I just kind of
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
told
lot more
you
to
bits
it,
and
I'm sure.
pieces,
Yeah.
right? If I were to tell you the start from start to finish, you would be very amazed. Yeah. I've written something, but I've written a book, but I have not published it. I've not published it. I wrote it, years ago, and it is in my computer. I have not published.
Oh man. Well, we're gonna stop there only because of time, I guess. Thank you so very much for sharing that with us. It's an incredible story. It's a tearjerker in many respects, but it also ends up, as I said, God is good all the time.
All the time, God is good.
Yeah, because He have you swinging on that rope,
Yes.
and then and then running away from Him around the ship. Then all the things that you went through, the bullets flying overhead, so on and so forth. Um, Thank you for coming on. Everybody, hit the subscribe button on Strong Inspirations, where you get amazing stories. I just happened to run into the sister here in Detroit. She's a heavyweight in her own right, doing her business, and very astute, stands straight. You could tell the aura of her, and so how somehow we got to talking, and so here we are. We'll talk more, and we'll put all the websites and businesses in the description. If any way possible you're in this area or otherwise support her, please do. Go to my website, businessintheblack.net, where you can get a copy of my book and know where I'm speaking and so on and so forth. Let me ask you this. In closing, can you say goodbye in another language?
Yes. Okay. So I would like to say oh, and that is in Susu, Sisu language. That is a tribe in Guinea, from Guinea, and they are the tribe that is originally from the capital city of Conakry, Guinea, West Africa. So the way you say goodbye, you say oh, oh, oh.
Oh, I love it.
Yes. Yes.
Everybody, and to you, my sister, and I mean this with all sincerity, I want you to stay strong, stay safe, stay on your grind. I love who you become. You, through that training that you got up to your teenage years, through your parents and stuff like that, has made you who you are today, and carry it forward. It's a beautiful thing, beautiful story. I'm glad you're still with us, if I may say.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll be in touch.
My
Bye bye.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.